My wife told me I was holding her back. I didn't argue. I just stopped holding. I'm Caleb, 34, and 6 weeks ago I watched my marriage quietly end the way a candle goes out. Not dramatically, just a sudden absence of warmth. This is what happened. Priya and I met in grad school. She was finishing her MBA. I was doing a second bachelor's in computer science after washing out of a biology program I hated. She was sharp, ambitious, the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately understood its power dynamics. I was drawn to that. I grew up in a house where my dad fixed AC units for 30 years and my mom ran the register at a pharmacy. Nobody in my family talked about ambition the way Priya talked about it, like it was oxygen. We dated for 18 months, got married in a small outdoor ceremony in Vermont. Her parents flew in from Mumbai. My family drove up from Maryland in 2 minivans. Her mom made polite, careful conversation with my mom the whole weekend. Her dad shook my hand firmly and said, "Take care of her." I said I would. For the first 4 years, things were good. We lived in a 1-bedroom in Chicago while I built my career at a mid-sized software company, and Priya climbed at a consulting firm downtown. She made more than me. Neither of us cared. Or at least I didn't. And she said she didn't. Then she got promoted to senior manager, and something shifted. The comments started small. At a dinner with her colleagues, she laughed a little too hard when someone made a joke about people who didn't negotiate their salary. Looked at me when she laughed. We were in her colleague's penthouse apartment, and she spent the drive home talking about the view, the furniture, of the wine they'd served. "We should really think about upgrading our place," she said. We'd just renewed our lease 3 months earlier. I brushed it off. Then came the conference. Priya's firm flew her to a leadership summit in San Francisco for a week. She came back different, not in a dramatic, obvious way, just slightly recalibrated, like someone had adjusted the contrast on a photo and now everything looked a little harsher. She started talking about operating at the right level, about how you had to surround yourself with people who pulled you up, not anchored you down. I asked her once, half joking, whether I was an anchor. She smiled and said, "Of course not," but she didn't laugh. 6 months after the conference, she started pushing me to apply for a director role at a bigger company. I was a senior engineer at that point, and good at my job, respected, comfortable. I had no interest in moving into management. I like building things. I don't like managing people who build things. It's a different skill set and, more importantly, a different personality. I told her this. "You're scared," she said. "I'm self-aware." "Caleb, you could be making twice your salary if you just pushed yourself a little." "I push myself constantly, just not in the direction you want me to go." She let it drop that night, but it came back every few weeks, dressed in different clothes. "Why don't you reach out to Marcus? He's a VP now and he loves you. Did you see that your old classmate Ryan just made director at Google? You should really think about your 5-year plan." I didn't have a 5-year plan. I had a mortgage, a sourdough starter, just a fantasy football league I'd been in for 11 years, and a job I actually liked going to. That was enough for me. It was clearly not enough for her. The dinner. In January, Priya's firm hosted a gala for their top clients. Black tie optional. She'd been talking about it for weeks, had bought a new dress, had gotten her hair done. I rented a tux because the one I owned was from our wedding, and I'd filled out since then. We arrived and I immediately felt the room. These were serious money people. I'm not intimidated by money generally, but I'm also not someone who performs for it. I smiled, shook hands, made conversation. I'm decent at that when I want to be. Priya introduced me to her managing director, a man named Jeffrey who had the firm handshake and the square jaw of someone who'd been told his whole life he was destined for something. And he asked what I did. I told him, software engineer, product-focused, been at my company 6 years. "Good, good," he said in the tone of someone being told about a meal they'd already finished. Later, Priya introduced me to a couple, friends of hers from the firm. The husband, a guy named Dominic, was a VP of strategy somewhere. Fit, good watch. The kind of guy who uses words like leverage in casual conversation without irony. He and Priya immediately started talking shop. I talked to his wife, Joanna, who turned out to be a high school art teacher and was very funny and visibly bored by the party. At one point, I glanced over and watched Priya laughing at something Dominic said. The way she leaned in, the way she touched his arm. I noted it, filed it away. On the drive home, she was quiet for a while and then said, "I need you to start taking your career more seriously, Caleb." I kept my eyes on the road. Where is this coming from tonight specifically? It's not from tonight. It's from a long time. I look around at what other people have built and I feel like we're behind. Behind who? Behind where we should be. That's not a person, Priya, that's a feeling. Don't therapist voice me. I'm not. I'm asking a real question. Behind who? Name someone. She didn't answer, just looked out the window. I said, I'm not going to turn into a different person because the people at your office make more money than me. She said, I know. But she said it like she was giving up on something. Update 1. After that drive, I started paying attention differently. I noticed that she checked her phone more at night after she thought I was asleep. I noticed that she'd started going to the gym in the morning, which she'd never done before, suddenly very particular about how she looked before leaving the house. I noticed that she talked about Dominic a lot, casually, weaving him in. Dominic had a good point in the meeting today. Dominic's wife doesn't understand what his job actually involves. That last one stuck. I didn't say anything. I just watched. Then one Thursday, I came home early. My afternoon stand-up got canceled. I wrapped up my work by 3:30, decided to surprise her. She worked from home on Thursdays. I stopped and picked up Thai food from the place we'd been going to since we moved to Chicago, the one where the owner knew our order. When I got home, the apartment was empty. Her laptop was open on the kitchen table, her reading glasses folded next to it, half a cup of coffee gone cold. But no Priya. I texted her. Hey, came home early. Where are you? She replied 20 minutes later. Oh, stepped out to meet a client for coffee. Forgot to mention. Home by 6. She got home at 6:08, kissed me on the cheek, seemed slightly too relaxed in the way people seem when they've been practicing seeming relaxed. I didn't say anything. We ate the Thai food. She said it was good. I agreed. I'm not a suspicious person by nature. I don't like drama. I don't like confrontation. I especially don't like being the person who makes accusations they can't back up. So I just waited, kept watching. Over the next 2 weeks, I found 3 things. In first, a charge on our joint credit card for a restaurant I'd never heard of on a Tuesday afternoon when Priya had told me she'd eaten at her desk. Second, a name that came up in her phone notifications twice while she left her phone on the counter. Just a name, lit up on the lock screen. Dominic. Third, and this one I didn't go looking for. I was pulling a jacket from the front closet and a small card fell out of her coat pocket. A handwritten note on cardstock. Nothing explicit. Just, Thursday was everything. D. I stood in the hallway holding it for a long time. Then I put it back in her pocket. Update 2. I want to be clear that I didn't make any moves quickly. That's not my nature. I don't flip tables. I don't explode. I think and then I act, and I try to act once, decisively, rather than in a bunch of messy partial gestures that leave everyone confused. So I made 2 phone calls. The first was to my friend Garrett, who is a family law attorney in Illinois. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. I asked him what I needed to know before having a conversation with a spouse about ending a marriage. He walked me through it for an hour. I took notes. The second was to my sister, Dana, who I am closer to than anyone on earth. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, which she is unusually good at. When I finished, she said, "How are you doing right now today, this minute?" I said, honestly, steadier than I expected. She said, "That either means you're in shock or you already knew." I thought about it. The second one, I think. I just didn't know I knew. She drove up from Maryland that weekend, and we went for a long walk along the lake. She didn't tell me what to do. She just walked beside me while I thought out loud until I figured out what I already knew I was going to do. That Sunday night, after Dana drove back, I made dinner. Pasta. Nothing complicated. Priya came into the kitchen while I was cooking, poured herself a glass of wine, asked about my weekend. I told her Dana had visited. She said she was sorry she missed her. She sounded sincere, and for a moment I felt the full, complicated weight of 8 years with another person. The genuine parts and the broken parts all knotted together. We sat down to eat, and I put down my fork and said, "I know about Dominic." She went completely still. Not guilty still, not panicked still, just still. The way someone gets when they realize a conversation they've been dreading for months has finally arrived, and there is no version of this where they don't have to sit in it. She didn't insult me by denying it. I'll give her that. She said, "How long have you known?" "A few weeks." "Caleb, I don't need an explanation. I'm not here to be angry at you. I just need us to be honest with each other." She set down her wine. "I didn't plan for it to happen. I know. I do love you. I need you to know that. I believe you. But I don't think you're in love with me anymore, and I don't think the version of me you want actually exists." She didn't argue that. That was how I knew she'd been thinking it too. We talked for 2 hours, quietly mostly. Some crying, both of us. Not screaming, not cruelty. Just two people who had stopped being right for each other, acknowledging it out loud for the first time. At the end, I said, "I think we should separate." She nodded. "I think so too." Update 3. The logistics took about 3 weeks to sort. Priya moved into a short-term furnished apartment. We agreed to use a mediator instead of going fully litigious, which Garrett said was the right call given that we didn't have kids, and our finances, while intertwined, weren't catastrophically complicated. It's still in process, but it's been civil. I stayed in the apartment. It was in my name originally, from before we got married. Priya agreed it made sense. The first week alone was strange. I'd come home from work, and the quiet would hit me all at once, this big soft wall of it. Not bad exactly, just unfamiliar. I cooked too much food. I kept doing it out of habit, then eating leftovers for 4 days. Then gradually it stopped feeling like absence and started feeling like space. I called my dad one night just to talk. He's not a big phone talker, my dad. He prefers to communicate by showing up with tools and fixing things, but we talked for 40 minutes. He asked how I was doing, and I told him honestly. He was quiet for a while, and then he said, "You know what your grandfather used to say? He said the most important thing a man can know is what he actually needs versus what somebody told him he should want. You always knew that, Caleb, even as a kid." I didn't expect that from him. I had to get off the phone pretty fast after that. Where I am now, that was 6 weeks ago. Priya and Dominic are together. People who know them both told me, and I'd already assumed it. But I don't feel betrayed by the information anymore. I feel like someone who got off a train one stop before it went somewhere I didn't want to be. I've been working on a side project I shelved for 2 years because I never felt like I had the mental space for it. A small personal finance tool. Nothing monetizable, probably, just something I wanted to build for myself. I've been working on it in the evenings, and it's the most energized I've felt about code outside of work in a long time. My friend group is slowly recalibrating around the separation. Some mutual friends are awkward about it, don't know which side to land on. I've made it easy on them by not asking anyone to pick sides. Life is long and social geometry is complicated, and I don't have the energy to manage other people's loyalties. Joanna, Dominic's wife, reached out to me last week, which I hadn't expected. She wanted to know if I was okay. Turns out she'd already known something was happening between Dominic and Priya for a while, had been dealing with her own version of all this. We had a long phone call. She's very funny, as I remembered. We agreed to grab coffee sometime and talk about something completely unrelated to either of our ex-spouses, which sounded like the best plan I'd heard in months. I've been thinking a lot about what Priya actually wanted from me, and I don't think she was a bad person. I think she wanted a particular life so badly that she couldn't see the life she actually had. Couldn't see me, not really. She saw a draft of something she was still hoping to revise, and the moment I stopped being willing to be revised, she had nothing left to work with. I didn't need to become a different person. I needed to stop apologizing for being the one I was. The apartment's quiet at night. The sourdough starter is thriving. My fantasy football team is, as always, in fourth place, and I cannot figure out why. I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I'm just myself, and it turns out that's plenty.